Tangled Before Ever After is a Disney animated film from 2017. This is directed by Tom Caulfield and Stephen Sandoval. The story is by J.S. Ritchie, and we have a voice cast, including Mandy Moore as Rapunzel and Zachary Levi as Eugene. And it's okay. It's not amazing. It's just feature length. It's just under an hour. And I think the worst thing about it is the animation style. I really don't like the animation style. It's watchable. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but I don't particularly love it. The story is not too bad. Rapunzel is getting ready to get married and become a princess of Corona. And watching this now, hearing Corona, is very, very strange. Definitely a very jarring experience. No fault of the film, of course, obviously. And she's having not doubts necessarily, but a lot of anxiety about this. And I don't want to say too much about what happens because partly it takes a long time to get there. The pacing isn't great, but she ends up having to go on this adventure. It involves her hair. I will say no more than that. I know that's kind of vague, but as I said, it's just under an hour and it takes us maybe half of the film to get to that point. So I don't really want to give away the bulk of what you can expect in the second half. It does take a while to get there. And I think the pacing of the first half, the first 30 minutes or so, would be fine if this were a slightly longer feature film, if it was maybe an hour and 20, an hour and 30. I feel like the pacing to get to that point would be okay, but it otherwise felt quite slow. The characters are likeable, recognisable, definitely feels, not with the animation style, but otherwise feels like part of Tangled, so I don't have any issues with that. The music is really nice. We have some good songs in here, some good characters. So it's not terrible if you're a fan of Tangled. Well, I was going to say if you're a fan of Tangled, you might like it. I'm not a huge fan of Tangled. I like it. I've seen it a couple of times. Both times, I think I've seen it twice. Both times I enjoyed it. But I'm not somebody who would say it's one of their favourite Disney films. So if you really, really love Tangled, maybe you won't like this. Or maybe you'll really love it. I'd love to know which way it goes for you. But for me, I guess as a casual fan of Tangled, I quite enjoyed it. It's not too bad. The characters have a nice development and they go on an interesting journey, particularly Rapunzel. And yeah, the animation style I don't love. But honestly, that's probably the only genuinely negative thing about it. Yes, the pacing's not great, but it's not horrendous either. So in general, I can sum up and say that Tangled Before Ever After is a decent story. I think we have an interesting look at Rapunzel's character. I think she has some very genuine and believable emotions to this situation. And the music is really nice. The story is interesting enough. The animations, it's not the worst I've ever seen, but it's not the best either. But that aside, it's not a bad film. And if you've seen Tangled and liked it, I definitely recommend checking it out. If you didn't like Tangled, I doubt you'll like this. If you've never seen Tangled, I would of course recommend watching that first. It is a good film. It's just not one of my, probably not even one of my top 20 Disney animations. That would be an interesting list to compile. Maybe I will. But for now, I can say that Tangled Before Ever After is a decent film, and I'm happy to recommend it.